Wow, that was shockingly easier than I expected. Let me fix my camera here so I get
I know, I feel very close. Hold on.
an angle here. All right, stand by, stand by. All right, now I got to raise my desk. You know, standing desk. You know,
I know,
health and
that's
fitness first. All right,
I'm
what's up?
seated.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. So the topic of nutrition is always just calm and breezy. You know,
Easy. Never
low.
disagreement. Everyone agrees on everything.
There's only one way to do it. There's low emotions, and it's good to go. So nutrition questions roll into me every now and then, and if they're simple enough, I'm happy to give my 2 cents or whatnot. But I'm also well aware the scope of my practice and what's better thrown to some other folks. So that's why I brought you in. So why don't, if anyone is unfamiliar with you, let everyone know who you are, what's your background, and how can they find you.
Yeah, I'm EC. I run OptimizeMe Nutrition. I have digital education programs for gyms and also for individuals. And yeah, I have an MS in nutrition and functional medicine. And a lot of people know me from CrossFit because I used to work for HQ in various capacities. They can find me at OptimizeMeNutrition.com.
We traveled all around the world doing level ones and working out and having basically a good time. So it was very cool. And I always remember I was very happy when you would give the nutrition lectures. I didn't have to do it, and you were infinitely more knowledgeable than me when the questions came up. So now we're just, giving the lecture in a different format.
That's right. That's right.
But, I want to talk to you because I follow you on Instagram and I see your principles and your advice that's put out, which is very commonsensical, which is nice to see on the internet. But before I do that, I have to let you know, on the other end of nutrition, my wife purchased these cookies online. Apparently there's some cookie lady she's out of New York, and she makes these insane cookies that sell out instantly. Each cookie is a half a pound, okay? We got 3 varieties delivered to the house. Okay. We're supporting local business in the pandemic. We're doing what we can for the economy, you see. We got a Butterfinger flavor, a s'mores flavor, and a birthday cake flavor. And you have to order a minimum of 10 cookies. So
does she send the nutrition info with them, or?
As soon as I realized we were going to go on, I'm like, I haven't had a whole one of those cookies. I'll be honest. Actually, I cracked off one of the birthday cake just to see what it tastes like, and it did not seem indicative of long-term health and fitness when I instantly ate it. So that's a different one. I'll send you one so that you can dissect it and check it out.
Right.
But getting back on track now, you've been posting these principles every now and then, and from what I can gather, there's 10 of them. So tell me a bit about, what are the principles? How many are there? Why did you develop them?
Yeah, there's 10 of them, and they're really it actually started when I was working with CrossFit and answering those questions in nutrition lectures. They were really the 10 kind of concepts I kept coming back to over and over again, answering different questions. And the purpose of them is to give people a framework to think about nutrition. Because I really think when we start learning about nutrition, it's like, okay, what does the pancreas do in response to eating carbohydrates? And what does vitamin D do for the immune system? And wait, what about magnesium? And we learn all these like unconnected facts, when really let's put a big picture concept or roadmap down in place that covers not only the physiology, but also kind of the psychology, to understand kind of the overall concepts. And then we can start worrying about, okay, what does vitamin D do? And what does insulin do, and all of that stuff. So it's really to kind of help people understand nutrition to get their health, weight, and performance goals.
So are the 10 principles just maybe common misconceptions or things to think about? Or if somebody had the 10 principles ahead of them, does it tell them what they need to do to eat, so to speak?
Yeah, so it's not really misconceptions. It's just kind of either, I don't want to call them truths because I definitely can be wrong on a couple of them, although some of them are very based in physiology, so they are accurate. But yeah, they're the big picture concepts. But I guess what you would say the problem with them is that they don't actually tell you what to eat, and that's by design. There's no foods listed in the 10 principles, which might seem a little bit weird for nutrition principles, not to mention food, but the idea is, hey, what are the underlying concepts that we have to know when we go to make those food choices in the kitchen? You know, why is it that we see some people have success with intermittent fasting or some people have success with keto? Turns out there's going to be some similar principles there. So they don't actually tell you what to eat. They tell you kind of the concepts that are guiding all of these different diets that we see out there that work or don't work.
And is there a specific, order to them? Are there 10 of them listed from 1 to 10 for a particular reason?
There isn't really an order. They actually can all stand alone independently, and you can learn about them independently. I put them in the order that I have them in for teaching purposes. Really, I think they kind of build on each other from a teaching perspective, but it's not like one is better than 10 or 10 isn't that important. They all can be equally important depending on kind of what goal you're after, and all of them will come into play depending on what goal you're after.
Do any of the 10 seem to come up more frequently regarding either people's questions or confusion, or just people can't seem to get their head around a particular concept? And if so, what would it be?
Yeah, yeah, it's probably my favorite one. So I get a lot of questions that are like, hey, you see, this is what I eat. And I get this list of foods. And then every, Friday or Saturday, I have a half-pound cookie from some local bakery. Is that
For
okay?
example?
For example, is that okay? And they essentially want this kind of, blessing on their diet for them to be told that what you're doing is good. And so Principle 9 says, your diet can't be validated, meaning I can't bless your diet. I can't tell you exactly how much is too much or what you can get away with, or how many micronutrients you need each day. There's just so many factors that come into play, from genetics to overall diet to stress to exercise to sleep, that I can't tell you that everything that you are doing is fine. I just can't. I can say, hey, that aligns pretty well with what I think works. But there's no way to really have this guarantee that everything you're doing is perfectly. And so there's this level of unknown certainty in nutrition that I don't think people are always comfortable with.
And I'm going to guess that you get some questions, since not everyone's goals are the same, and therefore, can what you believe in or what you offer for people to do, these 10 principles, be formed to so-and-so needs to drop some weight. So-and-so feels an athlete on the smaller side, they want to do the total opposite. They want to gain some weight. I mean, is it the 10 principles for person A and the 10 principles for person B? And if so, how do you reconcile that?
Yeah, they actually are, because they're written in a way that can go in either direction. Meaning, for example, the first one is, the amount of calories that you eat determines your weight. It doesn't say you have to eat less calories to lose weight. So by stating it in a way that can go either gaining weight or losing weight, it'll still hold true for those different goals. And the same thing is said that way for, macronutrients or quality of your diet. So it really does tackle a lot of different goals, even from the perspective of the person who needs to, let's say, gain 50 pounds to be on a football team in high school. You know what I mean? To the person who wants to lose 50 pounds, because they're written in a non-directive way. They're written in a way that, hey, let's understand what goes on, and then you kind of take the reins and decide which direction to go.
What is this might be just your opinion, I don't know if you did a survey. How are people's diets going when they're stuck at home during the quarantine?
I think both. I actually think both ways. I think I've seen a lot of people saying that, they've increased the amount of alcohol or treats around given our circumstances. But then some of the people have really buckled down, and made it a time that they get to work on something positive. I think now we're getting a little bit more back to normal, even though it's not really back to normal. I think people are like, okay, I can't do the sweets every night thing. But yeah, I think in the beginning, just associate with stress, and I can appreciate that, of what is going on in our world, that diets typically took a turn for the worse in that early part.
People might see you, since you're the one putting out the nutrition advice all the time, as this pillar of discipline that never falters, never eats anything other than a piece of perfectly cooked broccoli.
Right.
What is it that you personally struggle with, that requires just immense discipline for you to stay on track?
Yeah. I I really like either just bread type stuff, or super, super sugary stuff like frosting. Or like I always give reference to, I don't buy them when it's not Easter, but those Peeps, those marshmallow candies. So like
Peeps.
mainlining sugar.
Yes. And now that would be, I'm going to assume I mean, bread is just woven into the American
Mm.
diet, right? I actually remember this woman was very passionate, yet incorrect, but very passionate at one of the level 1 seminars when the nutrition lecture was given, and we mentioned maybe a removal of grains from the diet. And she literally yelled out from the audience, if you don't eat grains, you will die.
Will die.
You will die. And I was like, wow, I've got a lot of friends that don't eat it. They seem to be still alive.
Right.
So can our blessed bread, you could have back in the day of like the zone 40-30-30, right? Where you could say you could do the zone on poor food choices and still do the zone, or you could do the zone on wonderful unprocessed food choices. But that's your personal choice. You can't blame the zone diet. It's not that. It's your fault as the individual. So can things, some refined, more processed foods such as bread, be worked in, or is it basically an all or nothing kind of approach? What's your take on that?
They definitely can be worked in for sure. I mean, I work them in all the time. I think what's interesting is we just have to like consider, how are we defining, bread and bread products? Because all of a sudden it's like you can say, oh, yeah, some bread's okay, and then you look at the person's diet and you're like, okay, have you had something that's not bread today?
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, bread can be fine, but it's always a matter of dose and then context. Like, how much bread are we talking about? And then does the rest of the diet have enough of the nutrients that we want? And if it's all bread, the answer is going to be, okay, we need to back off the bread. But this is where we see things like all these sugary cereals, they'll be like made with whole grain. And that's
Right.
losing the point a little bit. But somebody who like has the sandwich on whole bread, whole wheat bread, and then they also have fruits and vegetables, it's like, okay, we're doing fine,
And then you need to probably be aware of the ever tricky marketing campaigns of the food industry. I mean, you used to walk down the grocery store and I saw ketogenic hamburger buns the other day. And I was like, oh, I could buy those and make magical healthy cuisine. It's like,
my God.
poor society, I think, is being duped and tricked at an alarming rate if the appropriate buzzword is slapped onto the package, which probably circles back to, it's easy to get lost in the billion-dollar advertising industry unless you actually educate yourself through the principles or whatever it happens to be, which will give you this superpower vision to look and be like, well, that doesn't seem to make sense based upon what I've learned. So
totally,
education is still key.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. I really want people to be able to put this nutrition thing down. I actually don't think you need to work on nutrition forever. I don't think you need to be constantly improving your nutrition. I don't think you need to like 1% better every day in your nutrition. I think you always have to do it, but it's not this like I need to keep constantly tweaking and all this stuff, because like once you understand the concepts at play, then when that next new diet comes along, you're like, oh, this isn't a magic pill. This is just a rendition or a different, song of the same notes, for the lack of a better analogy. And so I want to put people in the driver's seat. I don't want them to be confused with all of the different diets out there, all of the different media claims out there. It's like, hey, understand some big picture concepts and then like be done with nutrition. Like have it be a great part of your life, but you don't need to be studying, vitamin D metabolism like I am this morning.
Right. You don't need to be a mechanical engineer to drive a car safely every single day.
Correct. I love it.
We'll end out with this one, a kind of a question that I get every now and then that you're probably better suited to answer, which is, people can go down some rabbit holes or get wrapped around the axle of, let's say you've got an individual and you're going to feed them, maybe this is like a thought experiment, 2,000 calories a day. In your opinion, what is it that matters? Is it the amount of calories that matter each day, or is it the macronutrient breakdown to achieve those calories? So for example, if you've got a 2,000 calorie meal, it's overwhelmingly just the bulk of its carbohydrates, or you have a 2,000 calorie meal that's split up nicely between protein, carbohydrates, and fat. Is one of those two does the body react differently to one versus the other? The carbohydrate load or macronutrient breakdown? What's your opinion?
Yeah. For most people's goals, and this is where we do have to kind of check in with that, they're going to want this even macronutrient distribution. And part of that's for sustainability. You know, even though it might sound fun for a couple of days to eat just a high carbohydrate diet, like at some point, you might get a little bit sick of that. So that's one of the things I think people overlook, you know, with the zone and the 40-30-30 idea. I think people sometimes were like, you know, put it down. But one of the great things about it is when you have even macronutrient distribution of ratio, you actually don't have to exclude anything. Where if you take something like a keto diet and you start going super low carb, you cut out a lot of foods. Put all the health claims aside about it, put all the weight loss claims aside about it. Let's take the simple fact that if you've cut out all fruits, not just like all fruits, as well as any sort of processed food, so you can never have them again on this keto diet, I can guarantee you that you're going to lose interest very quickly, and we only see results in the long term. So I think one of the things that we have to keep in mind with this 40-30-30 health, you know, effects aside, is just that sustainability piece. And that's one of the big reasons why I push people there. Then assuming we're talking to the CrossFit population, we need to make sure we have enough protein for that strength goal that they want, muscle mass development. And so, yeah, I would say that we want to look at that macronutrient distribution for a couple of reasons that people are really after.
And for you personally, how would you describe how you eat? Are you weighing and measuring everything that you do every meal? Is your eyeball pretty sharp as a razor? You know, what's your elevator description as to how you consume food?
I do try to do macros, weigh and measure everything for about a month a year, just to recalibrate that eye. As you know, sometimes it gets a little loose.
Sure.
But no, for the most part, I do my 800-gram challenge, eat 800 grams by weight of fruits and veggies each day. And then I also add a protein target, protein foods in addition to that. And then I don't restrict really anything else in addition to that. And so the idea with that, I call it lazy macros. But it's like, hey, let's form the basis of the good stuff. And then generally the quantity of the not so good stuff falls in line because you've filled yourself up with the good stuff. So that's what I do. That's my diet approach day to day.
Simple, not easy.
Correct. It's almost like CrossFit, right?
Yeah, exactly. Isn't that the way with so many things? Well, perfect. Hopefully that helps some folks get on the right track, and just maybe they came into the video halfway through, let people know where can they find out more about you or get more resources.
Yeah, OptimizeMe Nutrition and OptimizeMeNutrition.com. You'll find me.
Cool. Thank you very much, and I'll send you one of those cookies.
Perfect. Thanks, Pat. Take care.
Talk to you later.
Bye.